Mordini,
Here.
Sargent,
Here.
Anderson,
Here.
Lane,
Here.
Dvorak.
Here. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Going to make a quick change on item 11. Going to move the website update from Public Works to Technology. That was just an error on our part. Take a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion to approve as amended.
Second. Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda this time? Hearing none or seeing none, moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Questions? Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sargent, Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 6 is new business. Under new business, action item number 1, Lakeside Church rezoning request. This time, it's time to close regular meeting and open the public hearing on Lakeside Fellowship Church rezoning request. I'll ask the clerk when the notice is published.
April 29th.
Has there been any written comments for or against?
No, sir.
This time I'd like to ask staff to provide a report. Who is it for that?
Usually the petitioner provides that.
Lakeside.
Yeah.
Is there anybody from Lakeside who wants to discuss that?
I'm here from Lakeside, but I don't have any.
Any comments to it at all? Okay.
My name's Ken Thornton. I live at 215 East Rock Street, Polk City. I have an objection to the Lakeside Fellowship request in that it's a church. It's always been a church. It's always been an R1. And I think it's a historic structure, although I haven't checked that out entirely. But I see that if the zoning is changed, I don't know where to stop from there, because of course the funeral home could change it any way they wanted to. So if it's a historic structure, you lose any control there. Also, what happens after the funeral home? I mean, you rezone it yet again to something else. So I'm opposed to that.
Do you want to give an update on where we're at with it?
Yes.
Hold on just a second.
The Lakeside Fellowship Church has provided a petition for rezoning of the lot that has formerly been known as the Free
E-Free Church.
E-Free Church. Thank you. I forgot the. It's approximately 0.375 acres. It is currently zoned R2. They are seeking to go to a commercial 1. The P&Z heard this request and have modified the request to the point where they are restricting the C1 to funeral homes only. In your agenda packet, there's a map that shows the structure and the zoning limits in 250 feet from around the church. This was the group that was notified as per code for the hearing.
Were there any objections from that group?
That group did come up with the 51% that was necessary to rezone.
You're going to have some.
I'm not sure, is the funeral home leasing it or buying?
Purchasing it.
So if, at the end of the day, if the funeral home decides they're going to, whatever, retire, move to another community, whatever, do they have the ability to sell that to any business, or can it only be sold to another funeral home?
It can only be sold to another funeral home.
Request again. Or another rezoning request.
Or there would have to be another rezoning request. Good point.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Bill McGee,
Live at 301 South 2nd Street, directly across the street from the church. Lived there 40 years. It's always been a church. If it is rezoned commercial, whether it's got an exemption or not, it's going to really reduce my property values as well as all my neighbors. It seemed, I first got notice of the zoning change. We're in Arizona for the winter, so this is as soon as I could get back. But it seems fairly easy to this point to change zoning requirements. And so my biggest fear, I'm not afraid of a nursing home. I mean, it's like a church. It's used once a week or hopefully less. But it's pretty easy to get to this point to change it to commercial property. What's to say that in 2 weeks we don't do it all again and make it unrestricted commercial property? We as property owners have no defense against that. All we can do is pray that the council will use some insight, respect our investments, our life investments. The kids were born here, they grew up here, they went to school here. I know any of you who would find yourself in a similar situation would be here as I am. I mean, if you live across the street from a school and they decide to rezone it to a bar and it gets this far, you really feel kind of hopeless. I kind of feel like a small pea in the pod. I hope you do take into consideration our involvement in the community, our lives in this community, and the fact that this is going to benefit very few people. Thank you.
I'd like to comment to that real quick. I appreciate your comments, Bill. That this has been going on for a period of a few months actually, and they were before planning and zoning, I think twice now, or at least once. At least once I know, and they were up against a time constraint on the other. But I know that there was considerable conversation that took place within planning and zoning. And honestly, when they put this together and put it as a restricted only to funeral home, there was a lot of question and concern that surrounded that to make sure that it wasn't a, I remember, dance studio or something along those other lines, that they were trying to, I think really truly, at least from the planning and zoning perspective, and I wasn't here, it was just what I watched, that they were trying to be very respectful of the neighbors and, the history that went along with Polk City. So I appreciate your comments though. Does anybody else have anything? Is there anybody else here in the audience who wants to be heard for or against this?
My name's Deanna Deason. I live at 108 West Grimes Street. I'm not within the 250 feet, but I've lived here 43 years right down the street from the church. And I have a great deal of interest in it keeping its historical preservation. I think it's extremely important that all be maintained. I don't have any objection to the funeral home prospect. That's something we're all going to need at one time or another. But probably me closer than you guys. But I do think it's very important that you keep the integrity of the historical preservation of the building.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.
My name is Ryan Frederick-Gill, and I'm the proposed funeral director that would like to come to town here. Obviously, I do plan on keeping the historical preservation of the building. We do obviously need a garage to be added on so we can discreetly get individuals in and out of the building, so we're not doing that in the public eye. In regards to property values, you can look at the church. It is a little bit ran down. I do plan to make it look very beautiful again and again. I would think that would help your value of your property, so you don't have to sit out and look at a church that is running down because it's not being used properly. I really look forward to bringing the business to this town, and again, I think there is a need in this town. We do our best to do everything that we can and do it right, and to be as professional as we possibly can too. And by all means, I think that building is beautiful, and I hope to make it better if it does get approved and you do let me come to your town.
Appreciate it. Anyone else who wishes to be heard for or against this rezoning? This time I need them, yeah.
I appreciate what everyone said and a concern about what's happening down there, but I'm afraid what will happen if this is not a funeral home, and when Lakeside Fellowship leaves it, then it's going to become an empty building. And we know how everybody feels about that, and I don't know if they will come back and preserve the integrity of that building. I know we as a city sure can't afford to. So I don't know what you people who are neighbors there feel about that, because you are the ones that will see it every day, but I think it'll end up being an empty building.
Yes, Ron, I'll add to that real quick and say that when we were working with Lakeside Fellowship on the property out on Bridge Road, and we had heard that this property was going to come up for sale, that I reached out to John Calhoun, our development director, and said we need to do what we can to try and help, bring a good business into town if it's not going to be a church. And what can we do so that it doesn't become an old rundown building? Like what Ron was saying, that after you can drive through any small town in Iowa and find a rundown old church somewhere. And I think what our hope was to be able to prevent that. And I know when John met with Ryan, and I think everything was positive meetings throughout that and trying to find a way to preserve that and, do what we can to protect the integrity of the area, integrity of the square, and at that point really try and find a valuable business so that it didn't become a restaurant or didn't become a bar or something along those lines, because those requests were out, those discussions were out there, and those requests could have came. So I applaud our development director and staff for working through this and getting to the point where we are tonight.
Yeah, I guess I share the same concerns about the property becoming vacant. I would also add, I think, of the options that were realistic for that property, I think this is probably one of the least change-inducing pieces that could have gone. I know it's currently it's R2, so that means it could have been a multifamily, and I think that's a likely scenario probably after 10 to 15 years of vacancy and being run down. And I think, if I were one of the residents, I'd feel the effects of a multifamily unit housing more than I would a funeral home. That again, and seeing some of the things that they're looking to update, I think it could be a positive.
Any other comments? Need a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Lane?
Yes.
Polk?
Yes.
Mordini? Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, consider motion to approve resolution number 2016-45, amending the comprehensive plan, updating the future land use from civic to civic/commercial. I'm going to give an explanation of this, why we're doing it this way.
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. The process to do this, the comprehensive plan shows this area as civic area currently. To go ahead and entertain the rezoning, the land use map, future land use map, must be amended from the civic to the civic/commercial. After that, if that passes, then the rezoning would be in order.
I'm, I guess, somewhat conflicted when we vote tonight. I think it's a need. I think the funeral business that's coming to town here will be a great fit for town one way or another. This has zero to do with him, but in previous meetings, as you recall, we've had the planning and zoning say that we cannot have churches in certain districts, and we're going to redo those. And they put up a pretty little map of where the churches can go, and now we're removing another one. At the same time, the same group has made comments that in other areas that we've built in, that people did not know that that was gonna be in their backyard. So I don't know how we can pick and choose when we're gonna apply these rules. It appears to me what's happening.
Comments?
I have a question. If we don't change the zoning with this protection on there to keep it just a funeral home, the way it is now, could a daycare come in there and open a daycare with the current zoning?
Yes.
So, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for residents, but
With the way it's zoned now.
Yeah, with the
With the way it's
R2.
zoned, right?
with the way it's zoned now, if it doesn't become a funeral home, somebody could come in next week and make it a daycare
Without having to come to us.
without having to come before a rezoning. And, to my thinking, you're gonna get a lot more traffic at a daycare than you are at a funeral home. So that's just another thought.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's probably only 4 or 5 historic structures in Polk City. That's one of them. If you're not gonna protect them, then just get rid of that law, forget it, just. get it off the table.
What qualifies
Just
as
a-
a historic?
Yeah, I don't think Polk City has any zoning ordinances that gives us any authority over historic buildings, even if this is considered one. In that, at the state and federal level, there are laws in place, but nothing that, at the local level in Polk City.
Last night you had a historical commission, didn't you? Don't you? You had that.
Still do.
Yeah, we do.
Ask them.
We never meet. Enforcement.
No enforcement.
There's no enforcement,
Gotcha.
yeah, I think that they've been an advisory committee at
Right.
times, obviously, but nothing that they can enforce.
And I agree with what you're saying, Ken, but it'd be nice to have these historically preserved buildings. But who's gonna pay for it?
Well, I don't much care that it goes to a funeral home. That's not the point. The point is that the building is kept historically accurate as it is now. That's the point.
It seems like he's indicated that he's willing to do that.
Pardon?
And it seems like he's indicated that he's willing to do that. But I still
What
don't,
guarantee is there? I mean, if you change
Well,
the
what
zoning
guarantee is there
from
now?
one to C1,
I mean, the church could tear it down and build a new church there, or a
Daycare.
apartment building, or a daycare.
but that would be more towards the zoning. So you have to have the correct zoning to make it a daycare too.
Which it is.
Which it is
is.
right now.
It is.
R2, is
Yeah.
daycare allowed in R2?
I mean, the problem too with the historical presence is it doesn't meet the requirements of the ADA currently. I mean, that would have to be updated in my instance, and that's what at some point, if this all goes well, I will have plans for that. But, you know, you can't get away building a new structure, or once it changed hands, then I am compliant to change them. So we do need a handicap ramp. You know, that is gonna be more accessible than in the back side of the church. We'll plan to move one around to the front side of the church too. There'd be a new awning there. Same structure of the awning, but new and updated. Those bushes will of course be trimmed up, and the garage is gonna, would be going on the south and east side. So then again, we can have a lift in there to get caskets and individuals in discreetly, not on any of the side streets or in the parking lot. So that's about as far as we're gonna go, other than the structure of the building, but you do have to meet handicap accessible, and we'll also have some chair lifts to the basement, because if we want to do a luncheon after a funeral or a family gathering there, then again, elderly people need a way to get up and down the stairs. So that's, you know, when you come to the historical structure of the building, I get it, but there's also some things that my hands are gonna be tied to.
I understand about ADA.
Yeah.
The Capitol, for example, was one of my projects, and so the Capitol building in Des Moines, I remodeled. So $100 million and ADA was put in the Capitol, and you can't tell there's ADA in there.
I don't have $100 million.
The point is you put ADA in, not ruin it.
Well, I get that, but yeah, there also has to be within the budget to be realistic of, you know, making it still work too. So absolutely, I get what you're saying.
Well, I think maybe an option there might too would be to have Deanna, yourself, or, you know, your historical preservation committee. I know that you know, call a meeting. I mean, I think that it's on an as-needed basis, which obviously hasn't been needed, but, you know, potentially you could call a meeting of your commission and meet with Ryan at some point in time and voice some of your thoughts, desires, wishes, concerns, meet with Ken and, come up with those if this all goes through, to say, hey, here's our interest that we would like to at least see it maintained as this sort of a structure. I mean, he's not tearing it down, and like Councilman Sargent was saying is, if it did get sold to somebody else, they could come and tear it down and we really wouldn't have any say over it at all. And I think, honestly, again, if I go back to the conversation I had with Mr. Calhoun when we first were finding out that this was changing hands, this seemed to be the best option to maintain what a lot of us have known in Polk City as the old church, the old E-Free Church, for years and years. That wasn't going to be turned into a restaurant or bar or daycare or dance studio or whatever.
And Deanna, so I'm assuming you're talking about the Big Creek Historical Society?
No,
Okay.
this is a historical commission.
Okay.
It's part of this.
As it relates to, they did meet 3 weeks ago. I wasn't able to attend, but I reached out to them if there was anything to pass along from that, which is inside of the time when this started with P&Z and didn't have anything to add. So I'm not, again, exactly to your point, but I would hope that if they had any objections from a historical perspective, that would have brought up and they weren't, so.
I'm not sure if we're having an open discussion, but I have a
Go ahead.
question. If the proposed funeral home considers this direction south and that direction east,
Sorry, Southwest.
More or less.
Yeah, more or less.
southwest is better. I don't want to look at a graph.
No, you're right. Sorry, Southwest. Thank you.
Well, Polk City's crickets.
It is correct.
Directionally.
Directionally.
Be very clear about that. All right, I'll call for a motion on Resolution 2016-45 to amend the comprehensive plan.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2016-45.
Second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I think, I understand this and I understand where everybody's coming from, but I just think this is, to keep it from being a vacant building, I think this is a step in the right direction. We do have some control if we go this way. If we leave it, we have very little control about what can happen down there. And it took us, 11 years to get rid of a vacant duplex down there that I know was a problem. And I can only think that a vacant church would be more and bigger problems. So that's my perspective on the deal.
I just want to add also that I can understand what you're coming from. I once could look out my window and see kids having a pickup baseball game or football game across my street. Now I look out my window and I see people honking their cars that come and go. So I understand what can happen, but I do believe that this is, like we've been saying, if a change is going to happen, this is going to be one of the quietest changes, if you will, that you could probably have.
Motion and a second. Take a roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
No.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item C, consider motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 2016-1800, approving rezoning of .88 acres from R2 to C1R, restricted to a funeral home for Lakeside Fellowship Church property located at 302 South 2nd Street. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to have Bill hasn't said anything, but the only way I was going to support this was that it's a funeral home, only a funeral home, period. And to discuss, that is my thoughts, because that made me feel a lot better about the preservation part of it. So appreciate everybody's comments and whatnot, but I think this will be a win-win.
I'd just also like to add on to what I've already said. I've heard nothing but great things about the incoming business person. I think it'll be a great fit for the community. Same with Lakeside, great organization. My vote is just held to what I mentioned earlier.
What that last? I couldn't hear you, sorry.
For utmost respect for Lakeside and the business people coming in. My vote is based on what I mentioned earlier, not to be affiliated with those people.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini.
No.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes. Motion carries.
And this is just the first reading. There's 2 more readings. If something happens or something more comes up, it's not a done deal, is what I'm saying, I guess. And Bill's right, it's another step, but it's not a done deal.
Item 2, Crossroads at the Lake rezoning request. Item A, it's time to close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on Crossroads at the Lakes rezoning request.
I'll move. You need a motion.
Nope, not on that. I need a motion to go back. I'll ask the clerk when the notice is published.
April 29th.
Any written comments for or against?
No, sir.
Perfect. This time I'd like staff to make a report.
Very quickly, Bill Kimberly's in the audience, and Mike Shamsey, and Jana. I don't know who's making a presentation on your behalf.
Thank you. Mike Shams at Landmark Engineering. Excuse me. Representing Kimberly Development. This is for a 52-acre project located at West Bridge Road and involves 131 living units comprised of 75 single-family lots with 28 duplex lots and approximately 9 acres of commercial, which is 5 commercial lots. So we did go through planning zoning with our PUD for the residential portion, and we are asking for rezoning on a portion of the northerly land from R2, I believe it is, to a C2 and match up with all commercial along the Highway 415 South 3rd Street. And with that, answer any questions or respond to any concerns.
I'm going to take council to the map to pinpoint everything to give you a better idea of what's going on here. This area called Crossroads at the Lakes comprises what's been called the Kaltenhauser property for years and years and years. Approximately 52 acres. It has some C2, it has some R2 restricted, some R3 restricted, and some R1. What's being proposed is a reduction in the C2 that is on the north side of Bridge Road extended to the east, and additional C2 to the south of that, with the first lot being a regular C2 and the second lot being C2R, being restricted to about 5 uses, and I don't have those with me. I'll tell you exactly what those uses are, but when I get to my chair, I will. The rest of it would be PUD, which would be a combination of single-family housing as well as duplex housing. Duplex would have 28 lots or 56 units, and the rest would be single-family housing.
Thanks. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Pardon?
Do you have anything to add to his presentation?
Yeah, the uses of C2 restricted, that's against, that borders against Pine Ridge, I believe it states.
Yeah.
I think it was office use,
Business, medical, offices, health clinics, studios,
studios, daycare part of
daycare,
it.
dance.
Dance studio, yeah. Just a non-high impact
Right.
business use.
And I remember there was some considerable discussion from planning and zoning on that.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything else to add, Mike?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask if you, let me see if anybody wants to be heard for or against it, and then we'll go from there. How's that? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against the proposed rezoning?
I would like to,
Can I get your name and address for the record?
Louis Brotherton, 200 West Grimes Street.
Thanks.
The property that's right behind Grimes Street there, the girls said that they weren't going to develop that at all. Now, are they going to rezone that in behind us, or are they just going to leave it vacant?
What? Right behind Grimes.
The section that sticks out to 3rd Street there, right behind Grimes.
Right in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is that outlet that's Came with the size of it, less than an acre, I believe.
Is this?
That's what I'm talking about right
Yeah,
there.
that's being left undeveloped.
That's being left undeveloped, and it's gonna be, the zoning isn't gonna change to commercial on that or anything?
No,
Not to commercial, it would be PUD.
it's R2 now, I think.
It's R2, I think.
Yes, it remains R2 and that lot's to be sold off.
I don't think everything's R2. I'm looking at that.
Yeah, that was not part of the.
It's not part of the PUD, no.
That's what I'm trying to get to, and I can't.
Yeah, the area that
Right.
you're referencing is that light
That little
green
light,
section
yeah,
there.
okay.
That's not in the PUD.
Right. Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Anyone else who wishes to be heard for or against this? Step on up.
I just have a question. I was in today and talked to Jenny, and I didn't get a chance to look at the comprehensive plan. Was that what you were referring to over here? Was the comprehensive plan?
No, that's our zoning, that's our zoning.
That's your existing zoning?
Yes.
Does this development meet what the comprehensive plan has laid out as far as the zoning?
Yes, it does.
So I realize that planned unit development can pretty much mix and match however you want it to mix and match. But I guess my question for the developer is, usually a commercial district is split from the residential district by the multiple housing zonings. And in this instance, I see the R2 splitting residential 1 and residential 1. Is there any reason particularly for that? Or could you get all of your residential R2 up by the commercial so that your R1 is all together?
The driving force of the, you're talking about the duplex units?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
we're-
kind of go along in a horseshoe and they kind of separate, they're separating single family and single family.
The reason we chose to do it that way was that roadway is a 31-foot roadway as opposed to the 26-foot local streets in the remaining part of the development. And we felt market-wise, we're better off to put the duplexes along that roadway, knowing that there'd be low higher traffic impact on those units.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Ken Thornton, 215 East Grimes Street. I live adjacent, across the street from where this development is proposed to be. So there's a couple of things that I have. One is, I have a problem with it. There's a street that enters Grimes Street, kind of in the middle of Grimes Street.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with that street because obviously it's going to load Grimes Street up quite a bit, and the headlights and everything else will show in my neighbors' houses. Second is just a question. There's about a 44, 45-foot hillside behind on the development. It shows it as water. Is that actually a detention pond, or how is that going to be handled? I don't get it. Is that 45-foot hillside going to be cut down, or is that stormwater all going to be directed down to Grimes Street?
The hillside is going to be cut down.
44 feet of hillside?
It's a considerable amount of the hillside will be cut down, and we are not directing any storm water toward Grimes Street.
Then I think the last thing I have is I have a problem with the alignment of roads. They don't seem to line up with another development down there. They seem to be misaligned. They don't all seem to line up.
We line up with the East Bridge Road that's coming out of Deer Haven, and there'll be a right-of-way vacation of Whispering Pines Avenue that's been worked out with the two adjoining property owners.
Okay. It just looks like on your plat, there's a couple streets that don't line up.
Quick comment on Grimes Street, Ken, if you don't mind, is that through the other development that's going in on Deer Haven, you do realize the street loading is already going to be impacted on all the streets down there, Grimes, Church, Wood, Van Dorn, Broadway. Those are all connected through there.
My concern is I get yet another development
I got you. I got you. I just wanted to make sure you knew that those other streets were already lining up by that other development.
And I guess the last problem I have is density. I don't like the easy density down in my neck of the woods.
Anyone else?
I would like to make my point definitely against the rezoning, specifically the R2 and the way it's placed.
Anybody up here? Ron?
Yeah, I hate to sound foolish, but what is lot width at ROW? What is ROW?
Right away,
Right away. What is BSL?
building setback line.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I'll just make a quick comment while we're seeing if anybody else wants to say anything. I do know that, again, back to a similar comment with Lakeside, that this has been an ongoing discussion with staff for several months. Lots and lots of discussions, lots and lots of adjustments, lots and lots of compromises, I think is probably the best way to put it. And I know that this has been before planning and zoning now twice that I know of for sure. And I know there's considerable amount of time that was put in by planning and zoning at their last meeting and as well as the previous meeting. And I guess I just want to be clear, kind of to your point, was that this rezoning isn't being taken lightly and it isn't something that we're just pushing through. There was a considerable amount of work that went into making sure that we were, I think, working with the developer to meet our requests and needs, as well as, recognizing what you're trying to accomplish as well. Yes, Deanna.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted to bring it to your attention. I talked to Jenny this afternoon and she said she did mail out notices to all the property owners on Grimes Street about the hearings that planning and zoning had, but I know of at least 3 property owners that never did get the planning and zoning hearing notices. The first notices we received were to this meeting this evening.
I used the same list that I used for the council to mail out those notices. So the same number of letters were mailed all 3 times. Same number of postage. So where they went after I took them to the post office, I can't tell
And
you.
we had people show up to the planning and zoning meetings.
Yes.
They clearly
I
got
did.
the notices.
Yes, and I did have a few notices that were returns
Okay.
that I corrected addresses on. None on Grimes Street, but those were then remailed out.
What do you have, Mike?
We also had that informational meeting at the library, and we used that same list to send those notices out.
That was back in January or something, I believe.
I believe you're correct.
Just
Go
as an
ahead.
aside, Polk City has historically made sure that notices go out for P&Z meetings, but there is no legal requirement that that be done. So just wanted to make sure in case anyone had a question on that.
Well, and again,
Right,
this is the first reading, so there'll be
2 more
plenty of
after this.
opportunities. From my perspective, and Ken, I've got a map here, I don't know if that was included or not, that shows Deer Haven along with Crossroads, and I can show you that. The roads do align, I guess there is one,
Whispering.
what is it, Walker Street as it intersects Church and Wood is a little bit on its own, and so that doesn't align perfectly, nor do I think it's maybe even prudent to do so. But I guess the other thing I would add, personally, I'd like to see more of the starter home than maybe duplex. I don't know if that's an option as it gets implemented. I know that's something that's in the realm of that, but again, that's just my personal preference. And so I would encourage everyone to, come out to the additional readings and kind of even restate your opinions. But again, right now, the most visible intersection that you could argue in our town has an abandoned house on it. And so do we want to keep with that, or do we want to progress forward? Now, I'm certainly open to hearing whatever that is the best way to do it, but I don't want to let individual issues that I think we can work through get in the way of the overall improvement, because I think that's in a lot of ways one of the first things that people see coming into town and going through town, that campers and what have you, as they swing by Casey's, you've got hopefully at some point an office building to one side, Casey's, and an abandoned house, and And that's something that I think will add a lot, just by having that go away and something being there. But I'm more than willing to listen to what I'll call tweaks to the plan as we go forward.
Well, I want to add to that too, that not to steal a line of, I think it was Mr. Kimberly at the Planning and Zoning Commission, but really what they were trying to do with Planning and Zoning Commission and what we're trying to do tonight is basically get you off home plate, get you to first base. Everything as we go through conceptual plans and as we go through preliminary plans and everything has to go to planning and zoning. They're going to get another bite at it. We're going to get another bite at it. What we're looking to do right now is at least get it to the point where we can start drilling down and getting some of these specifics of what you guys can and can't do. I know regarding the water situation and moving some of the water, there's questions how all that's going to happen. And until we can get through this, it's pointless to go spend a whole bunch of more money down there to get to that point. And to back up Councilman Sargent, I mean, we're looking at, arguably the busiest intersection in Polk City that gets, some of the highest amount of visibility. And I think that this is an opportunity for us. And, the projects that I've seen of Kimberly and Ankeny are great projects. I mean, he doesn't do bad work. I think we're lucky to have them in town. So I'm
11th year in a row is the best builder in Ankeny.
Yeah, and
he's good.
When I was told that was who was getting the project, we could have done worse.
Yeah, and we did work with the Planning Commission and staff and Snyder going through all the details.
Right.
We had a multifamily portion of the project that was taken back out because of some zoning issues, and there was different roadway connections and things. We worked with them for months on fine-tuning the plan that was going to be feasible for both parties.
Yeah. And I know there were several of those conversations. Ron, I think you want to say.
Yeah, so the ROW right-of-way width, is that the same thing as frontage?
Yes, sir. At the right-of-way line.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure. And I see 6 lots in a row here where the smallest is 55 and the largest is 55 and the smallest is 36. And I don't know if that fits any of our ordinances, does it?
You had a 40-foot minimum, I believe, at the right-of-way line on the ordinance.
We have,
And 65.
you can build on 40 feet as frontage?
If it's a more of a flag lot kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where, yeah.
You got 65.
And again, but what they're asking for is a variant. I mean, they don't meet lot widths. There's a lot of things that they don't meet with this plan. The PUD plan allows you to adjust lot widths. And they were adjusting lot widths. They're reducing side yard setbacks from 8 foot down to 7 foot. I think they've got lot size everywhere, but it's more lot width. So what you're seeing is more narrower lots that are deeper in general than what you normally have in your zoning district or in traditional zoning.
Okay, well, then that goes back to an argument I made before about plan unit developments. I believe that originally the intent of plan unit developments was to allow them to concentrate building and create more green space.
That's one thing you can do with them. I mean, it allows flexibility.
Well, I was on the P&Z when we originally drafted that ordinance, and that was the intent. I don't think the intent was ever to create more building lots.
I mean, in general, I wasn't there when it doesn't say that in the ordinance. It doesn't say that you can't build, so that's not written in the ordinance. And typically, I mean, the planned unit development is oftentimes they adjust lot sizes. I mean, because lot sizes in traditional zoning, they're very rigid. They've got to be 80 foot wide, 10,000 square feet, 35 foot front yard setbacks allows you to adjust setbacks and lot sizes. It can be to conform more to the topography of the land. It can be.
There's a key word.
Right.
Topography.
Yeah,
which we did before, but let's face it, anymore, the developments we've had, they don't make the development fit the topography. They come in and change the topography to fit the development.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by what I said. I don't think we do this ordinance to create more building sites.
Can I address you? Can I address that one? Bill Kimberly.
Yep.
in many cases, that's just on those curves of those streets, Ron. If you look
I can
at
see that, I got the map
In
right
many
there.
cases, those lots they pie out and they get wider by the time we hit where the structure is and those backyards. Those lots pie out and they get wider. If you also look at the depth of those lots are actually turn out to be, in some cases, some of the largest lots for the people, maybe right at the street they're narrower, but the usable part of the lot, which is normally the backyard for people and their families, is actually larger than a typical lot you may find in Polk City.
Well, I'm going to be foolish, Ron, if I disagree with you.
Well, that's great. That's great. Quite your arm.
That's one of the things, again, I got my piece on the single family house out there, but this is a very difficult development in the sense that from a proximity standpoint, we're going from a pretty busy highway to a little bit of commercial development to some $500,000 homes. And I think the curves in here accomplishes that. What it does is compromise some of those, doesn't compromise it, it squishes some of that. So I do think that that's important, that we don't, there's not a hard transition, and these curves help with that. And so I see the other side of that from a flow standpoint that to me is beneficial. So.
Ron, before we started, before I had this, I know there's been several plans by other engineers, and I've seen those. And typically, developers want to just do a grid pattern. Put in streets back and forth, and we jam in as many as we can. That's the most efficient way for a developer to do it. And you end up destroying all the landscape, and you just have to wipe out all the trees, and you have the old town development where you do it as a grid. Most efficient for developer, and if you drive around most towns, that's what you're going to see for most developments. This plan here with our curved roads is not as efficient for me as a developer, but I think it creates a more attractive development for the people that live there and when people drive through it. But the alternative is, okay, we can put her in as a grid and meet every one of your setback and frontage ordinances and go back to your straight zoning code. We can do that. But I don't think you're going to like it after the day is done and we get this development built. I don't think you're going to like it. This development really is going to create something a little bit special in your town. And when one of the reasons, if you look at where we've set the park and the water, we set the single family lots around those because we figure those are going to be the nicer homes, and those people will pay a little bit more to back up to the pond or the park or to the trees, backing up to Pine Ridge and things like that. Whereas single family is not going to want to back up to commercial. And they're not going to, so it was some of those places we thought, and these are still going to be sold as single family places. But they will offer us a chance to sell a little lower cost so that everybody in there doesn't have to buy a $400,000 house, and it'll be a nice mix. I'm not going to want to build a duplex townhome, as I call it, that looks like crap, to where if you would like to build across the street and have a nice lot and spend $450,000, you're going to say, well, I'm not going to live across the street from that piece of junk. But I think you can blend these different types of housing and do it right, and it will be just fine. And that's why we're trying to, but that will be a lower cost point, of course, and doing the duplexes, it allows you to cut your land cost, and it's not as much yard, and they're going to be smaller units, but I think the transition will really be good. And I don't think you're gonna hate that. And I sure can't have, if you don't like it, my home buyers aren't gonna like it either. Because you're not gonna wanna spend the money I need for the lot that backs up to the pond and build a house with me if you say, I'm not living in that neighborhood. You follow?
Yeah.
So I hope I explained some of that. We're trying to create something that's really nice that the town's going to like and it's going to sell for me. So anyway, so we are bending some of your rules. That's why we went to the PUD. But the alternative is let's grid it, make our lots 70 by 135 feet and run them north and south and east and west and be done with it.
Well, down there, they'd be northeast and
That's right, you're crooked.
But, yeah, and I agree with you, Will, and I don't know, if you set it up on a grid, can you still get the same amount of lots? Can you get more lots? Can you get less lots? I don't know, I'm not an engineer.
You probably could get more lots at the end of the day, but that's not even anything we really wanted to go after. It was, obviously, we need to get enough lots that makes the whole thing work, but that really wasn't our goal.
And one of the biggest concerns, I hadn't even heard these concerns from neighbors, and what the biggest concerns I've heard from neighbors is drainage, how it's going to affect the drainage. I know that you guys have looked at this. Snyder's are waiting to look at this, right?
Right.
Now I have a question for legal. What recourse do we have if we find out at the end of the day, which I don't think anybody knows, it creates more problems for neighbors? What?
You're not to that point yet because you're just at the zoning point.
Okay.
Those issues will come up in the next phase. So, and you'll have the ability to address them, and Snyder then will have the ability to look at it. Right now, you're just determining whether you're going to agree to rezone the property.
And again, that was a point that was clearly stated to
Yeah.
planning and zoning, right?
Yeah.
Dave, I know you've been chomping at the bit.
No,
I
I gotta let him speak.
I just want to say, I think it's a
Go ahead,
good,
Dave.
it's the price of progress. And it's not really a price, it's something that needs to be done. Talk about a house that it's been there, I've been here 20 years, it's been there as a bike rental now. It is the corridor to our community. And I think Mr. Kimberly, the identity that you'll bring with, Polk City having this good opportunity to build, put some more commercial in, more than we would have before. I do also think there needs to be some homes that aren't $300,000, $400,000 because it's a lot of people want to come here. They just can't afford it. And there's houses sell in days. They just sell very quickly. So I think we just have to make sure we have to talk about parks, we have to talk about drainage and all those different things. But this plan itself, I think, is a great tribute to what we're trying to do here in Polk City. So thank you for working with us. And certainly we have to work out other things regarding the drainage and whatnot.
Thank you. Well, I too have been gnashing at the bit because I go to all the P&Z meetings and I'm not supposed to talk to influence those people's votes. So I don't believe in ambushing anybody. So I want to tell you my feelings right up front. And drainage is an issue with me, and lot size is an issue with me. I've lived in the same house here in Polk City for 48 years, for those that are counting. It's a 65-foot lot. And you can tell by looking at me that it's not stunted my growth. But still, we have to maintain what we allow other people to do when they come to develop. Because we're going to have other developers, and we're going to have developers in properties just as unique as yours. Frankly, I hope it's you, because you guys have been very easy to work with in my book. But again, I don't want to set precedents, I guess, for lack of a better word, and run off. Even though this is not the time to address it, I want to let you know that that's an issue. It was a big issue with P&Z, and we're going to take exception to it. And I hate to see you guys spend money to get to a certain point, and then because of drainage, your money's gone for naught. And typically what happens, I've seen it, I can point out 2 neighborhoods we're having problems with right now, is we hear it all, well, it meets requirements. SUDAS, whatever that is, says it's fine. And then there's water problems, and there's just a lot of finger pointing, and it never gets fixed. So that's where I'm coming from.
And Bruce?
Bruce Lotko, I have 313
315 and 317 East Church. I am within the 250 foot. I got a meeting or a letter on the meeting over at the library. I got a letter on the planning and zoning. I got a letter here. So the letters did go out to answer your questions. To give you a little bit of an idea, let's go back 10 years when we had the old grocery store here. Didn't work out. Fairway came. Everybody's got to agree, best thing that's happened to this town in a long time is Fairway. Giant. It's the biggest thing that happened. Years and years ago, I have no relationship anymore at all. I sold my business, but for many years, Bill Kimberly was a customer of mine. He builds homes. They've said he's a man of his word. He really is. Ron, I understand your comments on drainage, but right there is your drainage question, not there. Kathleen does not let things go through. I promise. I've been there. See this?
Then why do we still have citizens down here all the time?
Right there.
Okay, my point's made.
Right there.
My point's made. Thank you, Bruce.
You pay her, and I've never gotten anything past Kathleen.
And if anybody can tell me that that's different than what I said, where it's, well, it's SUDAS, we met the requirements, it's this, and nothing's done, and we still have unhappy neighbors.
I'm not going to defend Kathleen, but I'm going to tell you that when you go back and look at some of the previous drainage reports, they use different methods that were allowed then that aren't allowed now. And that's part of the problem. Those methods were not thorough enough to really analyze the high-intensity events. And so that's why you're having, because we're looking at those reports that have been given to us for the bank, Casey's, and different things. And if they would have used a different analysis method that wasn't required then, that is required now, you probably would have known that the impact of the true runoff.
Getting back though, the difference of Mr. Kimberly compared to some of the other builders that have been in here is so much different level, Ron. I understand, but there are reasons that we make exceptions. For example, when Fairway came in, remember the facade for the building? It had to be changed, and we had to adjust for the way that the side of the building was because it didn't meet. There are certain times to get it better, you have to adjust a little bit. And the quality of product he brings, I think, is going to help Polk City. I've got probably 12 people in my units right now that are looking for homes that can't afford what's being built in this town. We've talked about this before.
Oh, yeah. I can introduce you to a guy that's been here 48 years and couldn't afford to build this town.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But from talking with Kimberly, these aren't rental duplexes. These are townhomes for sale that are going to be priced to where the families that are moving into this town can afford. The average home in this town, as we all know, has gotten ridiculous. What is it, 350, 400? It's ridiculous. And for what he's putting in, and from what I've seen in the past, my guess is he's probably going to end up owning some of this stuff. We need the commercial in town. People other than the grocery store, people are having to drive everywhere. The subway people, they can't even find, you can't find anywhere to go in this town. There's nothing. I just think it would be, I've always said, I'm in this for Polk City, and I really am. And I think this would be a fantastic thing for the city, not only commercially, but in the development, because it's different than what's already out there. There's, 500, 700 lots out there that are for houses that are $500,000. There's just nothing else. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your comments, Bruce. I echo everything you say. Obviously, I know there were some comments that were made at planning and zoning regarding wanting to maybe see a little different frontage along the commercial development, maybe to meet one of your other developments or something in Ankeny. But I think your comment that you said there was you're trying to bring some potential opportunities to Polk City that we wouldn't have to drive to Ankeny to get some of those things. And we're not going to build big box stores in Polk City. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to find amenities for our residents, and this is one of those things that could bring those amenities to our residents. And I think that again, some in this community will push back on change, but we do have homes that are being built in that price range. Some of those things we're going to have to change with the times, and this area up here needs to be developed. I applaud your willingness to work with our staff, Kathleen, Gary, everybody here. I know you've spent countless hours trying to work through these details. Have changed a lot to get to this point, and I really hope tonight we can get off home plate for you and get to first base so that we can start this process.
Thank you. I was just going to say, Bruce, I appreciate your comments. I understand. You have a reputation in this town. And your reputation is you deliver. I haven't talked to anybody yet that hasn't said, hey, if Bruce says he's going to do it, he does it. I might not agree with it, but you deliver. So that means something, Bill, coming from Bruce to everybody in here, I think.
May I ask a question?
Yes. Get your name real quick.
I live on 415 Pine Ridge Drive.
Okay.
I got an easy question for you. I can read a map very well. I can't read squares very well. So could you please tell me how they're going to get back to the property from Pine Ridge Drive?
Or 415.
Yeah. From off of 415, how do they plan on getting back over there? Do they have to come down that way, or do they have to come down Pine Ridge Drive to go down?
Pine Ridge Drive will probably remain pretty much unchanged. Their basic entry will be Bridge Road to the east, which is not there at this time from the east of 3rd Street. That appears to be the main loading street going into the subdivision.
I think the advantage to somebody who potentially lives on Pine Ridge looking ahead with the Deer Haven development as well as the Crossroads development is the decrease of traffic I think you'll ultimately see on South Side and Pine Ridge, because we're going to have other arterial streets that will allow for access out of that development, where right now you only have those two. And that's what's exciting about both of these developments, is that I think that it will help to decrease that pressure in the mornings and the evenings up there. I know where people are trying to get in and out of. And we get our turning lanes put up there in the next couple months. I think all of that's going to play a big factor in all of this, and it's going to really help that area down there, I believe.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for or
So
against?
I just want to answer that a little bit further. So again, we got maybe a different map here than what is available, and if you want to stick around, I'd be happy to show it to you. But in just looking at this, I don't see any home in this development that, regardless of which direction you're leaving, that would be quickest to go down Pine Ridge. It may be part of Deer Haven, but I think with this addition and with Deer Haven, you're talking about probably 6 more spots of ingress egress to what I'll consider the Pine Ridge development, all inclusive down there that you don't have now. Right now it's Pine Ridge and the south side, with Deer Haven going through that connects to the 4 residential streets and Broadway, and this will create a new road extending down Bridge Road, as well as 2 connections to Grimes. So,
and I think you throw the eventual, discussions out there, the studies being done or been done, the eventual traffic signal on Bridge and 3rd, that'll help to some of that traffic as well.
So I'm assuming your question was around flow on Pine Ridge. The net effect of these 2, the 415 should, even with the additional houses, should be a decrease in my eyeballing it.
Yeah, wrong.
Well, I was just going to say that, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the original maps and proposals, Whispering Pine was supposed to go through, wasn't it?
Yes.
And then we heard from people down there that did not want it to go through.
Right, vacated.
I don't happen to agree with them, but.
Yeah. Okay. Any other?
I understand perfectly what you're saying.
Any other questions, comments, discussion around this? Cliff?
Leonard, I wondered about the bicycle trail.
That's going to be a big piece of this as well.
Okay. I was wondering to know.
That's a big piece of this as well. That's another exciting feature with this, that the eventual hoping to tie into downtown, as I consider this.
That's our plan when we develop too, is we plan to put that big trail all the way through our development, and
put it in on the front end rather than a little bit at a time, or waiting for the city to do it. So that's,
Appreciate it. I
that's
live
our
up
plan.
Washington, and the bicycle trail runs right through my yard. Is that big? Okay,
You're there, we got you.
okay.
We're gonna work with you too, Cliff. Anybody else? Otherwise, I need a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes,
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, consider motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2016-1900, approving rezoning of 3.175 acres from R1 to C2. Beat this, take a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2016-1900.
Second.
Questions?
I don't have a question, just general comment. I'm very familiar with what Mr. Kimberly does, great product. It'd be hard to top that, actually. My concerns go back again to the fact that a certain body within the city gives different advice each time. As you recall, on some of the different plats that have come before the council or to come up for discussion on this particular piece of property, they were not looked at favorably because we had businesses adjoining Pine Ridge, and they would not accept those until those were redrawn 3 or 4 different ways. So again, I'd like to voice my hope that P&Z will follow the same course with each project and not as the wind blows. Having said that, you couldn't have a better spokesperson than Bruce. I agree with what was said before. He does what he says he's gonna do. He's a pretty stand-up guy, so I buy him pizza or whatever. You can't do better there. The only question I would have, and I think it's probably going to hit you sooner or later, so just throw it out there. The piece of, I'm very, very aware that we need commercial. I'm very aware of the popularity of Ridge Road there. I know of at least 2 that tried to build there, but Grinnell Bank didn't want to play ball. At the very end on the south side of your property, basically across from the car dealership there, that commercial piece that adjoins Pine Ridge, historically, that's always been somewhat of a rough spot in town about having businesses adjoin previous residential there. I mean, it's not my call, it's your land, but that's something you might want to put in the back of your mind.
Rob, I think if you go to C, that's where they're restricting that.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm just.
Okay, you're just.
I'm sure he's probably been
Gotcha.
told, and it's,
Yep.
he doesn't
Okay.
hear from me, he's got his expertise far above mine, but it's something to put on your radar. Other than that, my only, I guess, sad point is seeing the timber go, but as we've discussed before, I don't own the land, and I know you do a great project, so.
We're gonna try to save as many as we can.
No, I understand, and like I said, they have a little heartburn there, but it's not around you. Thank you.
Any other comments from council? We got a motion and a second. Take a roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet, Anderson,
yes,
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item C, consider motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2016-2000, approving rezoning of 1.882 acres from R1 to C2R, restricting the use to business and professional offices, medical offices, and health clinics, studios, music, photographic, dance, fitness centers, and all less than 6,000 square feet in size and education, childcare, including daycare centers and preschools. Next time I don't have to read all that. Take a motion.
so moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes,
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item D, consider motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2016-2100, approving rezoning of 442.442 acres from R1, R2R, R3R, and C2 to planned unit development. Take a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2016-2100.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet, Anderson,
no,
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. You're one step closer.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. See you in a couple weeks. Item 3, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-42 to set a public hearing on a budget amendment for fiscal year 15-16. Set that for the next council meeting, which would be May 23rd, as close to 6:30 as possible. Take a motion.
so moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini? Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, consider motion to approve Resolution 2016-43 approving Maximum Pizza LLC, also known as Papa's Pizza, agreement for leasing of the unimproved alley. This is what we discussed last week. Item A, or 2 weeks ago. Item A, consider motion to approve 12-month special Class C liquor license for beer and wine for Maximum Pizza. Oh, wait a second, I'm going too fast forward. I'm sorry.
Two different.
I got messed up on there. All right, I just need a motion on
And the reason we did that
2016-43.
there is, we need to have a lease in place before
Gotcha.
you can approve the liquor permit that shows the lease area as part of the business.
And this is all that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Exactly, everything's exactly
Thank
the
you.
same.
Okay. I got a motion. Can I take a second? Or I get a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mordini made the motion.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Sean? All good. Okay.
Do it.
Good. Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item A, consider motion to approve 12 months special Class C liquor license for beer and wine for Maximum Pizza, also known as Papa's Pizza, effective May 28th, 2016, with outdoor service and Sunday sales.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Motion carries. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Item 5, consider motion to approve the third reading of ordinance number 2016-1400, amending Chapter 47 Park Regulations by adding Section 47.25 tobacco-free policy. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Roll call, please.
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6, consider motion to approve second reading of ordinance number 2016-1500, water and sewer rates amending 2016-1500. Who wants to speak to this? Dan or Gary?
I can speak to it since I made the motion last week. After doing some more consultation with staff or whatever, I realized that water is not in the red as much as I had thought. So we proposed a change that was amendable to Councilman Sarchet, who had wanted a slightly different motion. And so we're changing the water to be the 10%, just the straight pass-through. And the irrigation meters, a 20% increase, and in sewer, a 20% increase. So it'll be a 10, 20, 20. It's very close to the same total overall increase in fees, but it's assessing the fees where they are more appropriately assessed.
And the original ordinance proposed last week was 15 across the board.
15.
You guys,
She's giving us that look.
if you were going less on anything, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with not starting with the first reading again
You're going less.
on the water, but not on the sewer.
Right.
So it's what you're saying is we have to have first reading?
Well, it's probably a close call.
Oh, there's time, yeah. Not like this is
We can do
not like
this.
this is time sensitive. Oh, yeah, this is.
Yeah, I
Do it on-
think
yeah.
what
Do
I
the reading.
prefer is that you vote down the second reading of the ordinance if you passed at the last meeting and have a first reading then of the ordinance with the revisions, with
So-
the proposed.
So with the ordinance, because Jenny gave us an amended copy of this
Just today?
just today, like
Okay.
but so will that ordinance number actually change then?
No.
No, I'm asking
I
Amy
see.
because if we're turning one down,
So
We'll
what
need
you
it.
handed out tonight is what the proposed changes are?
Yes.
Okay,
but it's still the same ordinance number that we voted on 2 weeks ago.
the same ordinance number, okay.
Which I could change.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's do this then. Let's change, from a procedural standpoint, I just want it to be clear. So you've got the same ordinance number. let's go ahead and it'll be a motion to approve a first reading of ordinance 2016-1500 as amended.
Great.
And just do it that way.
And so let me just be clear, so what we voted on 2 weeks ago just kind of goes away.
Right, because you're amending it and starting over with the first reading.
Okay.
You just want to make sure that the public knows that you have that, and that's why you have the 3 readings. That's to give public notice of the changes that you're making in the ordinance. So I do it that way. A motion to approve ordinance 2016-15 as amended.
No, that's what I
And
said.
this will be the first reading.
That's what I heard.
My words exactly.
That's what I heard.
And just for the record, I want to restate the rationale behind this. We're catching up to, so there's the increase, most of which is being passed on just from the Wind Waterworks. We're adding pieces to specific areas where the city is operating at a deficiency on, and so we're not making any money, which is a very unique position from a number of communities who are maybe maxed out with their property tax rate and use water and sewer rates to sort of slide in a revenue stream. We're not doing that. We're stemming the tide on losses, and I think that's prudent given some of the possibilities where we may need to go down in future roads. So that, again, just my 2 cents on the why behind the how and the what.
I appreciate you guys willing to work together to do this. Is that a second? Dan just asked.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? How we got here? Roll call, please.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes. Motion carries. Again, thank you guys for coming up with this new proposal.
It's better to build a consensus when it's possible.
I appreciate that.
Compromise is always good.
Yep. Item 7, consider motion to approve resolution number 2016-44 to set a public hearing for the amendment of zoning regulations regarding beekeeping regulations restricted to agricultural zoning district regulations A1 only. If we're just setting a public hearing tonight, so I'd take a motion. We will have that on the 23rd as well.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini? Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8, consider motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2016-1700, stop, yield, and no parking for Lakefront Drive, name change to Marina Cove Drive. We spoke on this a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, Mayor.
Any other questions on it, or we'll take a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Mordini?
Yes. Yeah, I know, I gotta find it. Under Mayor's report, a couple of just real quick things before I do the EMS report. Yeah, I gotta get to it. Sorry, I should have had it. Yeah, I know, I should have had it pulled up. Minor police chief interviews are the 17th. We did get down to our 5 candidates, and they've all agreed to be here on the 17th, starting at noon. And hopefully we'll be able to push that out that day. Also want to bring attention to the email that was sent out earlier today regarding Center Construction and the progress that's being made over at the Broken Arrow. And again, that they're expecting that demolition to be happening sometime between the 12th and the 16th. No doubt there'll be some questions coming around as things start happening, trees coming out. There's been some other things that have been made down there, but if progress is being made, I guess is the really key word there. And then lastly, I'm going to do an EMS week proclamation designating the week of May 15th through the 21st, 2016 as EMS week. And therefore, I, Jason Morse, Mayor of the City of Polk City, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through the 21st as Emergency Medical Services Week. That's all I have. Mr. Anderson. It's all you. Do you got anything?
Oh, nothing, sir.
Wow. Mr. Lane.
Nothing tonight.
Yeah, a couple of things. Been talking off and on for quite a while about this commingling thing. I want to remind everybody that's here and maybe watching or listening that the survey is still out on the website, will be for the remainder of the month. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, I encourage anybody that has an interest to fill that out so we can get some better input. have some very preliminary numbers from Metro Waste Authority to keep doing it the way we're doing it, with having two places to drop off, one in Des Moines and one out at Metro Park East. The very preliminary numbers of the five-year projection is a little over $4 million loss. If we close the one downtown Des Moines and have everything out at Metro Park East, it's showing a $2.7 million loss over 5 years. But if we commingle, it's showing a $912,000 profit over 5 years. Like I said, these are very preliminary numbers, but the local engineer, Metro Waste Authority, said we're not talking powers here of probable differences. We're just talking like 50, 60,000 here in projects that are 10 or 12 million. So, the other thing I had, it was just a question. I've been getting some questions asked whether or not the interviews for the police chief are open to the public.
No. So they're not.
They're not?
No.
Okay. Good to know. That's all I had.
Mr. DeVore.
As well, if we could set a personnel meeting for the personnel meeting for the next council. That would fit with Mr. Anderson. This would be the
personnel meeting and the next council meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you can do it. What do you need, an hour?
5:30.
5:30? Yeah, you can do that.
I have nothing else.
Will you send out a, thanks. Mr. Mordini?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Searchin?
Just two quick things. One thing, back to the Crossroads development, not technically a part of it, but I'm grouping that development from a road view standpoint with the Deerhaven. Do we have any update on where they're at, or any options to make sure that coincides and one doesn't get ahead of the other too far?
I believe that we're going to see a good interworking between both of them, both developers. And we're still working with final numbers and working through an urban renewal plan for Deerhaven. And those numbers are closer now than they ever have been. And we will be moving that forward. And that, if both of these developments come through, and I don't see any reason why with the vote tonight that they won't, that you'll have a bicycle trail that will get you to the downtown, to the square area. We would then need to start working from the square area to the High Trestle Trail.
Do you have any updates on where they're at with their project?
On Deerhaven?
Yes.
They're crunching the final numbers, and I hope to have those this week.
And they're going to be turning some dirt here.
I do believe they will be turning dirt once we get an urban renewal plan in place.
Anything else?
Well, on that, I just want to make sure that, I think from a macro level, all the answers that we gave are completely accurate when everything goes through, and I would hate for that to be not true temporarily if Deerhaven were able to get behind Crossroads, which I don't think would happen, and it would be temporary, but I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can there. And then just want to, gotten a few requests for the neighborhood group, which I think is positive. No real near-term timeline to get that rolled out, and in hindsight, maybe spring wasn't the best time to do that with everything else going on, but I know Gary mentioned another push maybe from the city just to get the word out there again, so I think that would help, but I think we're in a good spot there, and anxious to work with Ken and get this off the ground here in the next handful of months or so. Thanks.
Go for it.
I don't know who you have. To address that, Rob, we pushed out today and pushed out the end of last week with one of our main pages on our website. And also we reached out to Kimberly Knapp, who placed it on her Polk City Square newsletter that went out. And already we received one more, which I'm trying to get an address for to find out where she fits, where this person fits in the neighborhood areas. So our second push here seems to be doing a fairly good job.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Item 9, council discussion, tall grass and weeds. Mr. Mordini.
It's come to my, I know we've talked about this before, and I know you've heard me squabble that we have zero meat to our policy for nuisance yards, and we've seen that with the one that we took care of or working with starting last week that's been around for years. But it's come to my attention here recently that we have another one that is now contracted with the lawn care service not to have her yard mowed any more than once every 14 days. So basically, if you do the rough math, they'll get a violation weekly, and by the time the 5 days expires, the last minute of the day, she'll be getting her yard mowed. So basically, she's found a way to thwart the system, which I know shouldn't be a shock because we've been mowing it for 4 years already. Having said that, I believe both city administration and our attorneys found another route, which may be good to deal with some of these. And I think there's probably, to my knowledge, maybe 3 that would ever fall under this category that I'm aware of. So it would be very seldom used. But I'll let Gary talk more about that.
Thank you, Rob. There's an ordinance in your packet. It still is not numbered yet. But if you take a look at our tall grass and weeds section right now, we can go after the person, we can go after municipal infractions. And the idea that Amy came up with, our city attorney, is also for this to go as a criminal violation, which then she has to be in front of the court, and there are certain fines that would go with that, and the court would then deal directly with the criminal side of this. And this would be found under your Chapter 3 of your Code of Ordinances. And Amy, since this was really your brainchild, which I applaud you for this, do you want to kind of explain a little bit about this?
Well, it just gives us the ability to cite municipal infractions as simple misdemeanors, if we choose to do that. Honestly, it's something that Ankeny just started doing this year because they found that the municipal infraction section's a little bit cumbersome because it's something that has to go through me, and it's more akin to a regular court case. Unlike a citation, which could be issued on the spot, puts that violation in the system and eventually gets the person that you've cited to the court for the court then to make a decision as to the fine, or in some egregious case, they can cite it up to 30 days in jail if necessary under a simple misdemeanor. So it just is another tool for us to use over and above just citing as a civil municipal infraction, which in the case that Rob's referring to, we've done twice already and gotten a default judgment against her. I think one of them was for $750, but the last one was for $1,250. We've done that in the last 2 years, as well as assessed the cost of the mowing against the property, and just nothing seems to get her attention. But this would just give us another tool to use, and hopefully that something eventually will get her attention and she'll take care of things without us having to deal with it.
And as Amy said, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, this isn't a matter of the city collecting anything. Actually, I think the fine would most likely be less than what's already been assessed. It's more or less a vehicle to get somebody to act instead of to keep calling our bluff, because right now we have a glorified mowing service for the city, which as you well know, they've got other things more important to be doing other than taking care of people's clover patches. But I do know that there's several people in these neighborhoods, as we heard from last time, that are just tired of hearing we can't do anything. And that's, now what we're finding is people are finding creative ways to work the system. And sooner or later, we have to either, it's kind of like you go fishing and you use minnows for a year and you don't catch anything, you'd probably want to go to something different the next day. And what we're using is not working. So in order to correct the behavior, I think you got to find something different.
So, because I've been listening to you talk about long grass and weeds probably the entire tenure of your, being here. I guess my point is does this seemingly meet?
I believe so. It's not perfect. I think others have had good ideas too, but as Amy has mentioned, the way that the codes and everything work, they're not possible. And so I think this is the best case scenario, and I think it'd probably be limited. Correct me if I'm wrong, I can only think of maybe 3 places in town where this would ever come into effect. These are not something where somebody has a bad day and doesn't mow their yard and you go side of it. These are things that have been going on for years. Hence the one last time. That's a 10-year project, probably more than that.
But, yeah.
20-something.
Yeah.
So, it would take an ordinance change.
Sure.
This was just a proposed ordinance, so if you want to, we can move it ahead of the next agenda and take 3 readings, obviously, before it'd be implemented, so.
Any feelings?
I think it's a great idea. I think we need to have some teeth behind it. Absolutely.
Not sure how I feel about lawn cutting resulting in jail time, but sadly, that's where we are, I guess. So.
And just as an aside,
I know,
it allows
extreme
the
example,
citing
yeah.
as a simple misdemeanor, which the fine is that the judge can impose is between $65 and $625 and up to 30 days in jail. So I suspect that in this one, you're going to be seeing $65 probably more likely than even the $625. So
Trust me, I don't think our courts would even put real people in jail anymore.
All right.
We will bring that as an ordinance back at the next council meeting.
Sounds great.
Thanks.
City Administrator report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to talk a little bit about tobacco in the parks. Polk City is the second city to have completed all of the readings in the metro area. We had a meeting with the folks that brought the tobacco-free to our attention. We will be getting 75 no tobacco in city park signs free for this, and they could come as early as later this week or early next week, and we will be getting those out and established in each of the parks. Highway 415, very quickly, Polk City is working with the DOT to come up with the utilization for our citizens, the use of our website to kind of bring periodic updates to the highway project. I will tell you that next May 17th, which is a week from tomorrow, the Highway 415 project will be let. The contract documents have the latest start date as June 20th. So things will start changing in and around Polk City and on Highway 415 in the very near future.
Excellent.
They're going to go the easy route, at least they're going fast.
Anything else?
That's all I have, sir.
Oh,
that's a good point.
good point. Cleanup day is Saturday.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I had a resident ask me on cleanup day, can they take tires?
Yes.
Do they take tires
Without rims.
without rims? I just got asked.
There is a
them this
limit.
week.
I have to look at the
You'll
form.
take them out to city shop, though.
Yeah, in the past, there's been a limit, but we've always had the rooms, so.
Okay. We did tell on the flyer though that we have it. There's a limit of 4 or 5. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, I got asked, so I thought I'd ask. All right, thanks.
Attorney's report.
Nothing other than we did receive the certificate of title on the property on Roosevelt, and we're working towards getting that petition prepared so we can get that filed.
Excellent. Good to know it's moving. Engineers report.
Nothing on it.
Public Works.
I'd just like to touch on an update on Davis and Tyler. We've had an exceptional working relationship with the contractor up there, by far, probably, I think one of our best ones. And I think Gary can agree with me. We had the toughest part of the project, which is interruption of water service, was scheduled on a Friday, which we hate doing things like that on a Friday, but the water was shut off at approximately 9:30 and service was completely restored by 2. And that was only because they were missing one part. So, I mean, they had everything pre-built beforehand. It was replaced 4 valves and put it in the ground and it was done, so. And I see today they're hauling in their storm sewer parts and they'll be starting on that, probably weather related, so.
And because I've been asked, what's the projected completion time date?
End of May right now.
Okay, that's what I've said. I didn't want to be wrong.
Okay,
Glad to know it's going well.
get some rain out of the forecast and we'll make that.
And if you happen to notice, Simmer Park, we have the sign up there and the split rail fence is in. What we're doing now is we're hauling some dirt out there to just try to, it's tiled too, if I didn't mention that. It's tiled, the water's going away. So I had Cody haul, I think he hauled about 20 loads of dirt Saturday. And I think our last little step with that is our final grade and seeding, and that should be a park that can be mowed, so finally.
Good. Thanks for doing that. Keep this contractor in mind, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Jake, technology report.
All right, something that I have been working with the Parks Commission here is a map of the Polk City parks and trails. I shouldn't think to get into here. Basically, what was requested of me here a while back was a interactive map that kind of showcases Polk City's parks. The trails at that point in time weren't really mentioned, but it's something I'm going to be working on in the future. This map is actually found on our city website as of right now. It is live. It is underneath the for residents, underneath the environment, parks and trails tab right here. If you click on that link, you will be taken directly to this page. It basically will pull up a marker on every single existing park that we have in town and lists the address and the amenities that are found at that park. I've actually gone ahead and, well, this is something I'm still kind of working on, trying to kind of add features to. I'm working on adding photos, interactive trails, interactive being that you can actually sit there and kind of map out your run routes, bicycle routes, what have you like that. Individual informative web pages for each park and for each trail once I have them on there. That will show just kind of expanded features of every single one. To give an example of what the photos will kind of look like, I actually was able to get one of these loaded up here earlier today before the meeting. You'll find this in a lot of other cities. I know with the city of Ankeny, city of Des Moines, a lot of these other cities that we have around town here kind of have these. It's just something that once again kind of allows the residents to do a little bit of research before they go out to the park. So I'd like to thank Becky Leonard for going through with this on the Parks meeting. I was unable to attend that here earlier this month. Sounds like I watched that. She did a great job. Covered all the talking points I was going to go over. But yeah, besides that, any questions you guys might have, I'll keep it brief since we're running a little late. We'll move along.
I just want to thank you for putting this together. We've been kind of talking about it and the visibility piece of this. We build the parks, we have the trails, we put a lot of emphasis on it, but if you can't find them or you don't know what's available, you certainly don't go, or you maybe investigate a little bit more. But this is exactly what we've been asking for, and of course, you can revise this on the fly because the website has that ability. So I think it's fantastic. I think any comments, or we had some additions even at parks, for Becky to let you know some different things to do here. So it can be changed, flexible, but I think it's a really neat way to publicize our amenities. Appreciate it.
Looks neat. I'm looking at it now. Cool. Nice work. Anything else, Jake?
That is all.
Finance Director. Fire Department's not here. Police Department report. I know you've been waiting in the wings.
Patiently waiting.
Letter accommodation.
First of all, I have the monthly activity report, should be in your packet there. If you have any questions about that or anything, I'd be glad to answer them for you. On April the 21st, I received a letter from Mr. J.D. Byram, who's the course director for the School of Police Staff and Command 395th class that's being conducted in Des Moines, Iowa, at the Des Moines Police Academy. For those of you that never heard of the School of Staff and Command, it is considered to be one of the top police management schools in the country. And some will argue that academically it rivals the FBI Academy, so it's a very good school and a very tough school. And the letter I have here is addressed to Chief Roger Sanders, Polk City Police Department, 309 West Van Dorn, Polk City, Iowa. It says, Dear Chief Sanders, I am pleased to advise you that an officer from your agency, Sergeant Dustin Bjornson, has been elected to the position of Vice President of the 395th class of the School of Police Staff and Command. As you know, this class is currently in progress and being hosted by the Des Moines Police Department. The election to this position is truly an exceptional indication of the high regard that his classmates have for him, and we at the center recognize this achievement. We believe that the students have selected an excellent group of officers, including Sergeant Bjornson, and we are confident that these class officers will provide outstanding leadership throughout the entire 10-week session of the School of Police Staff and Command. And it's signed J.D. Byram, Course Director. I would like to, I prepared a letter of commendation here for Dustin over this achievement here. And it's addressed to Dustin Bjornson, Sergeant in Charge, Polk City Police Department. It says, Dear Sergeant Bjornson, attached, please find a letter dated April 21st, 2016 from Mr. J.D. Byram. Mr. Byram is the course director for Northwestern University's Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command. The purpose of that letter is to inform me that you've been elected Vice President of the 395th class of the School of Police Staff and Command, currently in session at the Des Moines Police Academy. As a graduate of that school myself, I share Mr. Byram's opinion that such achievement is indeed exceptional. Being elected to that position by officers from the top law enforcement agencies in the region clearly denotes recognition by them of your positive personality and your leadership skills. Your performance at this school and your election to class officer has reflected favorably not only on yourself, but on the department, the city of Polk City, and me. I hereby commend you for a job well done and order a copy of this letter with this attachment to be placed in your personnel file as a permanent record of your performance. Mr. Mayor, would you like to present this to Sergeant Bjornson? Absolutely.
Thanks, Dustin. Good job.
Good job, Dustin.
Thank you. Thanks, Dustin. Chief, thanks for doing that.
Thank you. That's all.
So we're not used to getting around here, so I appreciate you doing that. Very well done.
Glad to do it.
Anything else to add? On your behalf? Okay.
If you have any questions on the report?
Nope. Not for me. Anybody?
Little growing concern with 3 straight suicides, so.
Yeah. Library report.
I just wanted to publicly thank Randy and Public Works. My board met Monday night. They finally approved my shed, which the concrete had been poured. I talked to Randy on Tuesday morning. Shed was purchased Wednesday, and it is up, and it's beautiful.
Get things done around here.
Yes.
It takes a couple years to get the approval to get the shed, but by gosh, we can get the shed. We'll get it put up.
Well, just wait until it was nice.
I know.
It took forever to get the concrete.
It's supposed to storm tonight. Talk to me tomorrow.
There you go.
We may be crooked, but at least people can get.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to.
Trying to let that crooked comment go, are you? Citizen liaison.
Nothing to see.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Okay, all in favor. Good job.